Welcome back to Uncovered. You're with Behram and Jarrod, and there's this very interesting back and forth going between Jay Rich and Usha Arora in the comments. Usha Arora has sent 15 messages at least asking for what our thoughts are on Smith's test opener. We're not going to bother because there's a footmarks coming up anyway.
Dude, literally, you will get 45 minutes of our opinions on that. Just wait.
Maybe even more the way these podcasts go. But anyway, let's go to the next topic. And Sandeep Lamishane, prodigy leg spin bowler from Nepal, broke onto the scene and brought Nepal or Nepalese cricket to the forefront. Everyone was talking about it. Picked up franchise gigs. He has been sentenced to 8 years in prison on charges of rape. It was kind of coming, but Jarrod, you and I were talking off camera, and you mentioned how this is not the first time something like this has happened in cricket. And, in past instances, the people who have been involved in these sorts of charges and sentences, they've gotten away with it.
Yeah, I think, obviously this Mackay and Tini case is maybe the most famous. Scott Kugelheim of recent times is another one. There's some others I can't mention for legal reasons, as well of, interesting things that have happened in cricket. And I think cricket does have a sexual, I probably want to say sexual assault problem rather than, this is obviously the other end, the far end of that scale. But I do think a lot of cricketers don't really understand and not trained correctly by cricket boards, the rights and wrongs of how to deal with. We also had the case in Australia with Gunathalaka. Was it Gunathalaka?
Yeah, Gunathalaka. And I think Estelle was mentioning another Sri Lankan great.
Yeah, there's certainly been situations in the past of these sorts of things happening. I think what was interesting here is with Sandeep being a national hero and everything else, I kind of just thought this would go away. I haven't been following the case, and also, there was the other case too in Bangladesh. I forget was it a bowler who was charged with rape, but it was actually that he had premarital sex with a woman and then broke off the marriage. So the thing is that rape and sexual assault and all these different types of things and are very different in every single different country. But I just figured that, generally the powerful athletes get away with, Kobe Bryant and Ronaldo. And, there's always these sort of allegations against these sorts of people. Usually they sort of disappear that way. So
yeah, Robinho was one Brazilian footballer. Then was Franck Ribéry from France. There are plenty of cases over here that we could mention. But
the point is that they usually I just didn't expect him to go to jail. I expected it to be plead down or to be settled out of court or whatever they did to get away with it. So I was shocked when I saw this. I'll be honest. Someone who's followed sport for so long, I just didn't expect this to happen. But I hadn't been following the trial, so I don't know if you had been following the trial and it was just an open and shut case, and there was nothing that was always going towards this. I don't know enough about that, but just huge that the biggest cricketer in maybe one of the most exciting cricket nations on earth, or most exciting development cricket nations on earth, have lost their star player, and it would be fascinating to see what happens next.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect Nepal to protect him, as sad as that sounds, because they'd want him to be on the field. And I mean, a Kathmandu court made the ruling, so he still hasn't gone to jail. He's just been sentenced. We wouldn't know for sure till he actually does go to jail. But yeah, I mean, in terms of precedent setting, at some point, something like this has to happen.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think, and I say this as someone who's worked inside the game and has a lot of friends who are players and past players and everything else. I'm not surprised that this happens. I'm almost surprised that it doesn't happen more often. I don't think that there's something about the way that professional athletes are brought up, especially the male ones, obviously, but the way they're brought up, there's a sense of entitlement, especially when it comes to women. Again, I don't know anything about this case, so I don't even know what happened, right? I just don't know enough about it. But as a broader spectrum, I do think it is an issue within cricket. And I don't think it's just about, this is the really extreme end of it, obviously. But we've seen Joe Clark and Alex Hales and other players get involved with WhatsApp messages about women and, keeping trophies and all this sort of stuff. It's icky. at times, and the conversations I've had with players and everything else. And someone was telling me the other day that there's a prominent IPL player whose name I've now forgotten as well, but who's like a massive Andrew Tate fan. It's like, dude, like 12-year-olds are massive Andrew Tate fans. Anyone older than 12 who likes Andrew Tate needs to reevaluate everything about their life. But again, it's all that sort of stuff is just like, wait, what are we talking about here? And it's an issue for cricket going forward. These things, obviously, the main problem here is the victim. And they've hopefully they feel happy with the justice that's been meted out and everything else. But cricket has a place within the society that it exists in, and sports can't run away from that. This whole idea of sport and politics don't mix it. Cricket has a place within our society, and it needs to do the best it can. And as I'm telling you, as someone who's worked in the sport, I don't believe that is the case. I don't think that this is worked on as well as it could be.
Yeah, and particularly, in South Asia, it's even bigger than there is in the rest of the world. And I'll tell you one thing about the justice system in South Asia, it's not very good. So let's see how this unfolds.